Take your seats. We will start. No, it's not working. In any case, you can sit because we will start.
Dear colleagues, please take your seats. Proszę zajmować miejsca. Wszystkich gości również serdecznie zapraszamy, żeby zabierać już miejsca.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's okay. It's okay now.
Please take your seats, colleagues.
Yeah?
Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît, tout le monde.
Nehmen Sie Platz, bitte schön.
And in Hungarian.
Üljetek le, léci, léci.
This is diversity, you see? And in Spanish?
You know,
Sí.
yeah. Por favor, tomen sus asientos, sus sitios. Okay.
Yeah. Listen to your boss.
Vamos a dar comienzo.
Okay, we're going to start.
Okay. Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the S&D meeting here in Krakow to introduce the European Charter of Women's Rights. I'd like to start by giving you some information. This event will be web streamed, so people will be able to follow the debate via web streaming. There'll be a round of initial interventions, and then we'll open the debate. I'd also like to welcome and offer warm greetings to a group of women from here in Poland, here in Krakow, who are here to participate in our event. And I'd like to, of course, thank everyone who's made the event possible. This is one of the most important meetings for our group here in Poland. And we know that this is one of the most important debates for the European Socialists and Democrats. Colleagues, we are going to talk about a very important topic, which is a Charter on Women's Rights. And we're doing that here in Krakow because we're in a city, in a country, where there is an extreme right government that has decided to attack women's rights and to take us back into the past without taking account of the fact that feminist movements throughout the European Union have worked with the Socialists and Democrats to make significant progress, and that today we will continue to defend the position that these rights cannot be attacked. This is a fundamental issue for us. It's important to know where we come from, what we've achieved in the feminist movement that has been led by the Socialists and Democrats. But we also want to make it here in Krakow, here in Poland, that our daughters will not have fewer rights than their mothers. This is a very important moment when we see that rule of law is essential for the European project, and that it's not just a question of women's rights. The gender movement goes hand in hand with serious attempts to subvert democracy and fundamental rights. Attacking women's rights is also an attack on democracy. Women make up half of the population, but their voice is not as loud as that of men, because a lot of the points that would ensure that we had true equality, a lot of positions that would ensure equality are occupied by men. It's only if we have a fair, egalitarian society that we'll be able to see men and women occupying equal roles. Of course, there are fundamental rights, such as the rights to access to health, sexual and reproductive health, because banning abortion doesn't mean there are fewer abortions. This is something we've heard a number of times. Banning abortion means that many women will be condemned to death because they have to undergo clandestine abortions without proper healthcare access. Or women will be forced to travel to other parts of the European Union where abortion is a right. And these are all issues that have to be discussed. Gender equality is one of the fundamental principles of the European Union. And it's also one of the key points for our group, the Socialists and Democrats. Since the very beginning, we have always fought to ensure that these rights are respected. I would just briefly like to recall the beginning of the Parliament. The beginning of this Parliament when this group decided to set a series of conditions for our support for the President of the Commission. And one of the important conditions was gender equality. We asked for progress to be made on wage transparency legislation. We asked for a draft directive on gender-based violence, for the wage gap to be reduced. That's what we've done as Socialists and Democrats. On some of these topics, the Commission has made progress, but we have to be very clear and very loud when we say that it was thanks to our group and thanks to the joint and individual commitment by each and every one of us that we've been able to tackle these topics. And we will continue to speak out. We have a very important year ahead of us. We have to look at European issues, issues that affect the European population. And this political family represents the fight for feminism, for a more equal, a fairer Europe, one with more solidarity. And I hope we will all be together in this task. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irache.
Y ahora ya le voy a dar la palabra.
Now, I don't have to introduce him because you all know him, but I would just like us to offer particular thanks to Robert for his work, for how you are doing your work in the Women's Rights Committee. The S&D is very proud. The speaker is losing the microphone, I'm afraid. Robert, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Irache, for these introductory words. And I just want to ask you, colleagues, big applaud for our great leader, Irache Garcia Perez, who made it here to Krakow to announce this historic decision of our group. And I want to welcome you, colleagues, because this is indeed a historical moment for all the progressive people in Europe and around the world. Today in Krakow, in this special city, in this country, in Poland, the country which as many, maybe not as so much others, understands the importance of such initiatives. So for those who are not aware, our group has just a few minutes ago adopted the European Charter of Women's Rights, and this will be one of the flagship initiatives of our political group for the coming European election. We want this charter to be adopted, and we announce it in Krakow, in Poland. So thank you very much, colleagues. And before we start this great debate, and we will discuss about the importance of this charter in the times of the backlash, which Irache has mentioned, the pushback on women's rights, and the pushback against the pushback, we as progressive forces, we are obliged to organize, because many people are waiting for us for this initiative, that we will fight back this pushback. And it's our obligation also to take initiative on that. So before we go into this discussion on the charter, let me just welcome the people I'm extremely proud. I'm proud our special guests who are present today in this room. Those are the human rights activists, women's rights activists, people defending the Polish constitution and Polish Democrats from the civil society. They are today in this room. Very warm welcome to you. You are our heroes. Thank you for being with us. Robert, thank you very much. Please show yourself. Stand up, please. Over there. They are the activists. And of course, these they are like they understand that democracy, human rights, rule of law, we cannot take it for granted. We see it in today's Poland, we see it in Hungary, we see it in many countries, not only in European Union, but also around the world. Those values, which are so special for us as progressive forces, we need to take care of it. They are like beautiful flowers. If we don't water them every day, if we don't take care of them, they just fade away, they disappear. So it's very important that we as progressive forces, we understand it. And that's why it's so important for us to have this European Charter of Women's Rights, a catalog of rights starting from combating gender-based violence throughout the economic equality, social equality, including the gender pay gap, which is a reality not only in Poland but European Union, through the feminist foreign policy. Is a catalog which tries to frame the rights which should be obvious in 21st century, and this is not the case. And with this, on the debate, we invited the people who have much say about the struggle we need to take to achieve this equality. And let me introduce our speakers today, and I count on your activity as well and a Q&A session. Starting from my left, which is my favorite side, politically, let me introduce Daria Iwona Gosek-Popiołek, who is a member of the Polish Parliament from Krakow. She's a socialist activist. She's a true feminist, as you can assume. She's very much recognized, not only in Krakow, but also in Poland, also as one of the main organizers of annual protests of so-called manifas. Those are the protests for protecting, defending women's rights and gender equality. So, as I said, she's a member of the Polish Parliament, but she's also fighting for cultural issues, environmental issues. She's very active. So once again, Daria, welcome at our panel. And then on my far right, representing far left, I have Joanna Schering-Wielgus. You might know she European level for a long time. She's the vice president of the Polish Social Democrats, the party I have honor to co-chair. She's also, of course, member of the Polish Parliament, and she's the member of the Executive Committee of European Parliament Forum for Reproductive Rights. And she is very much also active, dedicated women's rights activist. She is known as a criminal in Poland, and I will tell you why. So, because of what happened a few years ago with this barbaric legislation which de facto bans abortion in Poland, Joanna and many other activists also present in this room, Joanna went on the streets and protested. And one day, with the protests, some activists came to churches with banners saying, "Women, you can decide yourself." And because of that, Joanna was prosecuted and her immunity was waived because of what she did. And now she's facing the charges against this action. So I want you to ask you for your solidarity with Joanna, that we stay on her side. And the last speaker we have in this panel, she's waiting to be introduced. And I don't have to introduce you. Zita Gurmai, our president of PES Women. Zita, big warm welcome. Is a former colleague of us and a future colleague of us, as I can assume, probably. She's also active in the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, responsible for the network, let me check how it's called now, the coordinator of the parliamentary network Women Free from Violence and general rapporteur on violence against women of socialist group. And the rapporteur of Istanbul Convention. She's very active. So big applause to Zita with her keynote speech. There she is.
Dzień dobry, siostry i braci. Dobrze być w Krakowie, w mieście królów.
It's a great honor for me to be in Krakow, the city of kings and queens.
Katarina already spoke about 19 years ago when I was elected West Women President. 10 countries joined 1st of May of the European Union. Just stand up, all those colleagues who are coming from the 10 countries, to show how strong Iraq's leading group became. Wow, and a big clap hands for them. Excellent. So you see, we are stronger together. So good morning, buenos dias, as my Spanish sister said. And of course, it's a privilege to be here with you. And special thanks for Irache, who we are fighting together for the last 19 years for women's rights and human rights. And of course, now she's leading the group of Socialists and Democrats, and I'm really thrilled to be here in Krakow. And I'm really very grateful, because leading PES Women and being the president, to speak to you about such an urgent problem, rising backlash and resistance to women's rights and progress in gender equality. And it's particularly timely that we are having this discussion here in Poland, where we can clearly see the effect of the rollback of women's rights and LGBTIQ rights. We have to stand together in a strong solidarity. Women in Poland know better than anybody else that women's rights are being undermined across the European Union. Let me greet first Katarzyna Kotula, PES Women Executive Member, who is fighting for legal abortion more than decades. Just recently, Abortion Dream Team activist, Justina, you just got the introduction, who is an amazing feminist, was convicted for providing abortion medication to another woman in need, as Robert, my great brother, already told you. Abortion is healthcare. Healthcare is not a crime. Poland must exonerate her and get rid of these dangerous laws. Criminalization of abortion has no place in a feminist Europe. I am disgusted that in 2023, a country within the European Union continues to punish women and they're helping them. Backlash against gender equality is not just happening here in Poland, Hungary. Klara Doblev is here for me, who we are fighting for together. And of course, Sweden, Italy are just some examples where anti-democratic forces are gaining momentum and threaten rule of law, right and peace. And of course, we are seeing the backlash against women, LGBTI communities, migrants, and other marginalized communities across Europe and the world. And here is the moment I have to say, without Robert Biedron, chair of the FAM committee, who is a great supporter of it, we could never get there. And of course, my dear sisters and brothers, these are all connected. We will only withstand if we dare to take even more action, more democracy, and more solidarity, as I mentioned. It is essential that we show our commitment to gender equality in all political areas and in all our countries. It's important to note that these movements are more than just backlash or reactionary. They are pretty well organized. They are transnational political movements that are made of different actors who come together to attack women, LGBTIQ communities, and gender equality, and they have a fortune to spend on that. These anti-gender movements are well connected and, of course, super well funded. They are difficult to pin down because they use inconsistent logic to undermine and adopt progressive language. And importantly, these attacks are inherently linked to undermining democracy and European values. Because of this, we must act now. Are you ready to act now? Yes. It's not enough. Are you ready to act now? Yes. It looks much better, you see? Excellent. Yes, that's okay. And of course, we cannot let them divide us. That only makes them stronger. Europe is built on democracy. It's absolutely important. And of course, this is why we must remain firm in our work to create a feminist Europe, as Irache, our chair, mentioned, one that does not waver on integrating gender equality in every decision, law, and policy. Gender equality cannot never be taken for granted. You can lose it all of a sudden, and Poland is a great example. PES Women recently adopted the S&D roadmap to an EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, and I'm super delighted to be here that you all adopted this morning. It is absolutely important, and we stand firm in our support of this excellent initiative. Thanks all those sisters and brothers who supported this initiative. The upcoming EU election, which is going to be one of the dirtiest elections ever next year, is a perfect opportunity to push for the EU Charter of Women's Rights, and I'm sure, as you said, you are ready to help us. And of course, we must also fight for the inclusion of abortion in the European Charter of Fundamental Rights and establish a former Council configuration for gender equality, diversity, and anti-discrimination. Helena Dalli, our commissioner, is ready to help in. Real solidarity action is needed to prevent anti-gender actors from gaining from further ground. But we must remember that elections are also the perfect opportunity that far-right and anti-gender actors to push their agenda. So it's up to us to do the work and insist on a feminist Europe this year. Let me repeat here again, dear sisters and brothers. Women's rights and our human rights, as Hillary Clinton said in 1995 in Beijing. But LGBT rights are also human rights. We need to stand firmly for that. And of course, we cannot stress it enough. The right to live our lives freely, with dignity, and without discrimination on the ground of our gender, sexual orientation, and beliefs and enshrined in our law and must be upheld. Indeed, we will not remain silent. I don't look like that. I can stay silent, by the way. We will always defend the right to decide over our own bodies. My body is my right. It was Bibiana Aido who we started this campaign in 2010, and she has been the first and one of the greatest ministers of gender equality in Spain. We should have a clap hands for Bibiana and the Spanish who did what they did for women's rights and gender equality. And again, I'm just repeating how important is the Istanbul Convention, include abortion in the European Charter of Fundamental Rights, and insist upon the implementation of an EU Charter of Women's Rights. Let me continue to be united and fight together for gender equality. We stand in solidarity with our Polish sister. Remember, you will never walk alone. And I brought my heart, which is crucial. Let's use emotion in our campaign, and then we can make it. And stand together. Thank you very much.
Big applause to Zita. Thank you, Zita. Thank you very much, Zita. So it's our Constitution Day, so a very nice white and red or flag colors heart. Thank you for that, from Hungary. Dear colleagues, then we are moving forward after these excellent introductions of our leaders, and we will have a debate, I hope very dynamic. Let me start with Joanna Schering-Wielgus. Joanna, we have just adopted the charter which will be one of the flagship initiatives of the Socialists and Democrats, and we expect it to be adopted within the European Union institutions. But we see the backlash. We see it not only in Poland, we see it all around the world. And you very often talking about solidarity, that Polish women and women around the world, they need solidarity. Solidarity in these difficult times where in Poland, because of this barbaric legislation, de facto ban on abortion, we have already 6 confirmed cases of women who died because of this situation. So what kind of solidarity, besides the legislative initiatives like this, we as politicians from all these 26, because we represent not 27, there's no Ireland in our group, but 26 countries, members of this group, we can have with Polish women, with women in many other countries struggling with all these difficulties.
Dziękuję, Robert. Zanim Państwo założycie słuchawki.
Thank you, Robert. While I'm waiting for you to put your headsets on, I'd like to thank you for having organized this meeting here in Krakow to talk about the rights of women and solidarity in relation to women throughout the European Union. What Robert said is very important because for a few years ago we had the feeling that it was absolutely impossible to have a situation in which Poland, where abortion was accessible, that everything could change as much as it has. It's in the center of Europe with profound democratic roots. And here we have a situation where we can see that nothing is impossible. Women are not taken seriously. Women's rights are regarded as being limited to the right to give birth to children, just as the church wants. They need to take care of the house and children and do nothing else. And what you said, Robert, on this cooperation, this feeling of brotherhood, of sisterhood, more to the point, is very important. But there's one other point here. You may know it, but when we talk about the rights of women in Poland, we need to bear in mind the context, the influence of the Catholic Church on the situation of women. One cannot separate the two. In Poland, we have a situation which I think is completely anomalous. The relations between the state and church and state are very close, extremely close in fact. The church has a great influence on law and the rights of women, and this is something we mustn't lose sight of. And I'm saying this on this day, which is a very important one in Poland. It's Constitution Day, and in our constitution, there is mention of the separation of church and state, and the constitution also talks about equality between men's and women's, but these sorts of things are not respected. these problems that have these links between church and state have existed for a long time now, and so we have this right-wing government at the moment, and so at the moment this relationship is even closer in many areas. The church is financed by the state. It has an impact on legislation. It gives its views on every issue that concerns women. The church encourages the organization and the mobilization of fascist and extremist groups in an effort to get them to defend the church when it concerns him in regards to women's rights. There are extreme radical movements as well, which infiltrate our ministries, and they lead to cooperation with movements such as Ordo Iuris and others. We have a whole series of movements against women's rights, and I'm talking about this because it is a key element. One cannot talk about the violation of women's rights if one doesn't understand the context and the importance of the church in that context. Coming back now to solidarity, Robert was talking about this. When we were faced with this catastrophe, with the court decision on Julia Uralevska, following this, women joined forces and there were demonstrations held. I was part of a demonstration, the demonstration mentioned by Robert. So the church has an impact on our rights. It exerts pressure on people in power to create a situation in which women feel inferior to men, to say things, call a spade a spade. And my immunity has now been lifted. I've had to appear before the court, and my husband as well. And we have sort of won the day. But when one wins the day in court in Poland, the general prosecutor and the public authorities can appeal, and the whole thing then goes to appeal. Concerning my husband, he's been summoned already. I will be next, and this is important to realize that there are reasons why parliamentarians are pursued and sued, why activists are sued. Why? Well, in order to make us afraid, so that we will be afraid to speak up loudly and confidently about the things we need to speak about. And the message that I would like to get through is something I say every time to the General Prosecutor and the Ministry of Justice, who are the same person. I say, we're not afraid of you. You can take us to court. You can summons us. You can call the police. You can do what you like. We will continue to fight for our rights. And the final thing concerning solidarity, what happened is something completely unimaginable in Europe. The Polish citizens are seeing solidarity that is coming from all over Europe. I'm part of the European Parliamentary Forum, and we have organized a visit of 30 parliamentarians, and we have demonstrated, we've been sending letters, we've made aid available, legal aid available to defend activists in court, and Katarzyna will talk to you more about this. And this is all extremely important. And there is something very important that has taken place. This goes beyond the borders. We work hand in hand, and this fraternity, this collegiality, something we're seeing throughout Europe and throughout the world, because we are cooperating with Argentinian women as well, who are also seeking to change the law in their country. I know that we haven't managed to do everything we'd like to, yet this movement needs to gather pace so that we can ensure that women's rights are respected in Poland. We have a wonderful bunch of people who do not hesitate to speak up, and so we will win the day in the final analysis. Thank you to you all. Thank you to Robert. Thank you to Rache for having worked with us on these issues.
Joanna has mentioned men in this room, the true feminists, which I'm proud of, my colleagues who are male fighting for gender equality, and this is an excellent work you're doing, guys. Thanks for that. And I want to ask Daria about that, because it's very often that we see that whenever there are the discussion on the women's rights, there are mainly women participating in these discussions. In our Women's Rights and Gender Equality Committee, of course, there is female domination of the members. I'm in two other committees. I'm in AFET committee and budget committee, and guess what? Where there are money and power, there are mainly men. So I want to ask you how to bring men on the board, and what's the message from this stage for men to take action, and what action we as men can do not to go to hell, paraphrasing Madeleine Albright's words, that there is a special place in hell for men not helping women for their battle for gender equality. So how to save us from not going to hell? Daria.
Dziękuję bardzo za zaproszenie i za to pytanie. To jest...
Thank you very much for having invited me. Thank you for that question. It's a difficult and a complicated question all at once. Equality is something that is worth fighting for women and for men. A society without discrimination, which opens the door to one and all, is a better society in which it is better to work and more pleasant to live, involving better relationships. And so this emphasis on equality of rights is a debate on the rights of women, but not only that, it's also about the rights of us all. Now, of course, from my point of view, that of a feminist, what I would like to call for is the following. In addition to solidarity and certain actions that need to be pursued, we need to go beyond saying that equality is necessary. We need to go beyond words. We need to act. We need to see men for whom parity is important, men who are prepared to fight. We'd like to see men standing up and voting for texts that protect equality. This is important for women, and not only in Poland, but throughout Europe. That's my opinion. Now, of course, we see in the Polish Parliament and other places that these changes are coming through more quickly in the European Parliament than Polish Parliament, of course, but nevertheless. And I'm speaking in the name of many women. I must say that we're tired of this slow pace of progress. We talk about things over and over, which should have been dealt with years ago. And there are many women who feel as if they are in charge of the legacy of the earlier fighters who came before them. And we are still fighting for these rights. We need to defend these rights and stand up for them through a range of different measures. And I'd like to add one thing, just speaking for myself here. Now, Robert has acknowledged the activists who are in the room with us here today, but as a representative of Krakow, I'd like to say that we have a representative of the women's strike movement, the Krakow branch of that. We have representatives from the Committee of the Defense of Democracy and the Queer May movement as well. We also have people who play a central role in Krakow. Thinking here in particular of Hemka Deutsch. I hope that she'll get to speak later on, because I have the feeling that I have inherited this tradition. It's always an honor to be by her side, and I look forward to hearing her take the floor today. Now, I don't know if I should continue to talk about Krakow or not, because we're here.
Katarzyna Kotula, who is a member of the Polish parliament, but what's more important, it's very important to be member of the parliament. You have a power, which is important for us, but she's also an activist helping Polish women to access free and legal abortion abroad, also in Germany. So, Katarzyna, what is the situation, the real, de facto situation of Polish women trying to access the human right, the right to access the health services in Poland and abroad?
Dziękuję Ci bardzo, Robercie, za to pytanie. Bardzo
Thank you very much, Robert. Thanks for asking that question. It's a particularly important question. We've heard it in the tone of your voice, the importance of this question. You're full of empathy, full of understanding for us in our very difficult circumstances. So we're really happy to welcome you here in Poland. You are here in a country that is a big country at the center of Europe, which, following the Constitutional Court's decision, banned abortion, and so there are pregnant women dying in Polish hospitals. Women who had sometimes planned their pregnancies for months and years, who are full of hope and looking forward to their future with children, and they get a diagnosis in which the fetus has a particularly serious illness or a defect of some kind, and then they go and talk to the gynecologist, and the doctor then doesn't quite know what to say, or asks the patient if she has enough money to, or knows where to find someone who can do carry out an abortion. Isabella, Agnieszka, Duchevna, and many others wouldn't have died if this law hadn't changed. In Poland, there was a abortion compromise without the participation of women. And so we now have this decision of the Constitutional Tribunal, and so now in Poland it's impossible to get access to free and legal abortion. There are 130 abortions in Poland every year, legal ones according to the statistics, but there are more than 120,000 women who go through abortions in fact. The doctors' hands are tied, the women's hands are tied. Sometimes the doctors are even afraid to save women's lives through an abortion. Life really is a delicate thing. Doctors are afraid of taking risks, legal risks, and not being able to exercise their professions anymore. Our colleague Joanna Schöring-Wilgus is an example of this. There are a handful, in fact, of doctors in Poland who do help women. Justyna Wyciecka is not with us here today. She's the first in Poland and in Europe, the first activist to have been convicted of having wanted to help another woman. I attended every day of her hearing. I was able to observe what happened. I was there when the verdict was handed down. In part, in camera, we weren't able to have access to everything that was said, and this woman does not have the right now to help others. Women do not have access to abortion, but friends sisters, mothers of women in danger, cannot help others either. That's what we've seen. Justina was convicted for having sought to help another woman, and that the courts want to breathe fear into everybody today in this country, which uses institutional violence against women and wants to stop women to act and help other women. The Charter of the Right of Women and everything that will be done by your Progressive Party will help us in our struggle. The party Novolixa will work with you if we win the elections and enter the parliament after the elections to ensure that there is free, accessible, legal abortion available to all women. Thank you to all the activists who are here today. You are the hope for our future. We count on you because everything depends on you today.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank all of the colleagues who have participated in this first part of the debate. Thank you for your courage, your determination, and your effort. Women are strong. This is something that I believe we will reach our goals. We talked about solidarity, and I would just like to recall that about 12 years ago, the Conservative government in Spain tried to limit the abortion law that was in place at the time and implement a more restrictive law to make it more difficult for women. And there was a huge solidarity movement across Europe and in all capitals in Europe. We saw women out in the street. There were demonstrations with about 1 million people in Madrid, and many of them came from other EU countries. And this solidarity from all European women were able to put a stop to the draft law. It didn't come into being. This was thanks to everyone, to parties on the left, but particularly thanks to the feminist movement in Europe. And that's something that we will continue with. Please be in no doubt about that. So thank you very much for your work. And now we have a debate. There are a number of colleagues who've already asked for the floor. And so I'll give the floor to colleagues who've asked to speak. And of course, if anyone else wishes to take the floor, then of course, that's okay. We'll start with our Vice President, Marc Angel.
Thank you very much, Irache. Mike. Hello, now?
I will give you microphone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Irache. I would really like to thank Joanna, Katarzyna, and Daria, and all the Polish women activists for women's rights. You are our modern-day heroes. You are the heroes of Europe. So thank you very much for what you do. I'm very happy that we are in Poland today and that we adopted this EU Charter of Women's Rights. And together with our roadmap and action plan for gender equality, I think we are very well equipped as socialists to go into the next year election campaign. And we have it on paper, but we also do it in everyday life. Let me tell you why. We are the only group, when we're in the parliament, we have a subject on gender equality, on women's rights. We send women and men into the arena. We are the only group where not only our female commissioner, like Helena Dali or Ylva Johansson, talk about women's issues, but also other commissioners. Nicola Schmidt, when it goes about social policies, he has this gender dimension in it. Franz Timmermans, when it comes to the Green Deal, he underlines this important gender dimension. Paolo Gentiloni, when we talk about economy, he underlines this important. So we really live it, and it's not only women, but it's women and men in our group, and I think we can be very proud. I'm also very happy to be in Poland today as an LGBTI activist, because Poland
Poland is an example where you see that it starts, a minority is attacked, LGBTI rights, and then it goes to women's rights. And this is a pattern which we see in other countries, and therefore we have to be very, very, very vigilant. And I tell you, we are human rights activists. We are not ideologists. Often we are insulted and they say you are crazy ideologist, etc. No, we are just human rights defenders. And these patriarchs who defend the patriarchal system, they are religious extremists, they are ideologists, and not we. So we should be proud to be just human rights activists, because women's rights, LGBTI rights are human rights. Maybe I have one question to my Polish friends. You explained us very well the influence of the Catholic Church. So how does the Catholic Church react when PiS representatives in the European Parliament, the far right from Poland, when they do not want to save lives in the Mediterranean, when they do not want to save children and women and men dying in the Mediterranean or in the Channel when crossing to have a better life? Are these lives not worthy to them? How is that? Is that a debate in Poland? Could you tell us a bit about that? Thank you very much.
Bardzo dziękuję za to pytanie. Tak jak...
Thank you for having asked that question. As I said earlier, in Poland, the link between church and state is completely anomalous. It's something one doesn't see anywhere else in Europe. So in answer to your question, I would say that the church is open to everything. And it's opposite. They want to help their neighbor and love thy neighbor and that sort of thing. But when it concerns women, they don't see women as being women. They see them as being procreators. The church in Poland is extremely rich. There is no institution in Poland that is as rich as the church. And as I said earlier, there are large amounts of public money that finance the activities of the church. And this is not about renovating churches. This money is used for other purposes. And in Krakow recently I discovered that there is a fund which was launched amid great fanfare to help people suffering from cancer. And I asked the question of all the ministries in Poland what this money is used for. This is the first time I'm talking about this publicly. This is breaking news. The Minister for Health said that this money is used by the diocese of the Catholic Church, and it's millions of millions. It's supposed to help people who suffer from cancer, but the government uses this money to finance the Polish Church. And this money is used to finance everything and anything. Lies, underhand cooperation, that's what the Ministry of Health is doing. The minister went to Czechostowa, which is a very important place for the Catholic Church. He went there during the COVID outbreak, and he said that he would entrust the health of the Polish citizens to the Holy Mother. And this is how the Church uses the government in power to obtain money. And there are people from the Church who are infiltrated in the ministries. Robert says I should wind up, so I will. And then there are the intelligence services which work with the church, to hide pedophilia in the church. In Poland, the police cannot enter the diocese to carry out raids or to arrest a priest. But at 6 in the morning, they can very well enter the home of an activist who has stuck a sticker on a rainbow flag, a Catholic sticker on a rainbow flag. So that's the situation we're faced with. And then the rights for the Polish Church, LGBTI, is not people, it's an ideology against which they want to fight. And that's something we mustn't lose sight of.
Okay, We will continue with the speakers list. We will organize one round table, and after that, if there are questions, maybe we can try to respond to all these questions. Okay, now I will give the floor to Helen Friedson. As you know, she's in remote, and we have to connect with her.
Yeah, yes, thank you. We see there is a voice at the back. Yeah. After that we give it.
I don't know if Helen is prepared or not. In any case, we can see maybe later. I will give the floor to Jens Geier, please.
Ja, vielen herzlichen Dank.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate our comrades, our Polish comrades, on their courage, given the situation of women's rights in this country. It's certainly more difficult and more dangerous in Poland than in most countries of the EU. And I'd just like to congratulate you, to encourage you in your struggle, and to say it's not only the German Social Democrats in the parliament, but all of us who stand firmly by your side. And we share a common border with Poland. And so there are direct things that we can do directly, the Germans and the Poles. But we mustn't lose sight of the fact that the situation of women is absolutely dreadful in this country. And we want to support you in every way in your struggle. We are faced with an election. Women are at least half of the population, and it wouldn't be the first time that people vote against their own interests. Men do that often enough, but the question that I have for you is, what do you see a grassroots movement? Because we see the polls in Germany, things are moving a little bit, but not enough. And so the question is, do you see a grassroots movement for women's rights arising in this country, so that in medium term we can change the political climate here? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Jens. And now I will give the floor to Hanka Teutsch. It's important activist here in Poland, and maybe she can respond to the question about Jens did it now. Janka, please, you have the floor.
Hanka, jesteś tam? Zgłaszałaś się.
Janka, did you hear?
Yeah, Hanka, chodź do przodu, chodź.
Come up to the top table, Janka. To the
web stream, and we have media here, so for that we need you to go in the front so they see you, that you're speaking. Cześć, Hanka.
Cześć, cześć.
Proszę cię bardzo, musisz tu stanąć. I think she deserves applause.
Dzień dobry Państwu ze wszystkich języków świata.
Good morning, everybody. So whatever your language is, I can't speak it because I only speak Polish. You're going to have to listen to the interpreters. I would like to echo what has been said concerning the rights of women and of men and the equality. I'd like to talk to you about the fund for the Equality Fund in Poland and how that works. So we have such a fund in Poland, the Equality Fund, and it is managed by the Ministry of Justice, and Zbigniew Ziobro is the public prosecutor, and some very bizarre things have been happening with that fund for justice and equality. 50 million zloty was granted to a man. Wait a second, an exorcist, that's what they're called. 50 million was given to an exorcist who has received this money to build a help center, and in fact he's using that to build a hotel, in fact, and that's just ridiculous. So these really are just incredible. What can I say? We have a movement of judges which over the past few years has been trying to pretend that there is a rule of law. And that's very important. We need to try to return to rule of law. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Janka. Now I will give the floor to Maria Noil.
Auch von meiner Seite.
I'd also like to congratulate you for the courage that you're showing, because one needs to be fearless in order to stand up for women's rights in an atmosphere such as this. And I know what it's like not to be able to move through a society without fear. I have a specific question. What about young women, the next generation? Are they more on the side of the conservatives? Do they see themselves as having a motherhood role more than anything else? Or are they more on the side of freedom and Europe and individualism? That is something that's interesting to me, because we need to see here the young people calling for change. And I'd like to thank you once again. You are my sisters, and it's very difficult for me to know that we live in one single Europe, but that we don't have the same standards. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Maria. Margarita, and after Evelyn. Margarita, please. Yeah, Margarita.
Merci, Ira.
Thank you, Roger. First of all, thank you for bringing up this point on the agenda and to bring this charter here to Poland. This has been the most important issue that we've been discussing here. We had no doubts before, but following all of these interventions, it's clear that this has been the right choice, and this is a struggle that the socialists need to continue. I have 3 points to make. The first is that, of course, we need to thank all of our comrades here in Poland. We know very well about the struggle that you're carrying out, and you need to realize that we stand by your side. The second concerns a deep concern that I have with regard to Europe. We have this situation in Poland because the extreme right has come to power. But what we see is that the extreme right comes to power, and now we're faced with the likelihood of moving backward with regard to human rights, social rights, rights to abortion, and women's rights. So we need to do everything we can to fight against this. Irache has spoken about the PP government in Spain. 12 years ago, I was part of a demonstration in Spain, and I remember the EPP initiative, which sought to change the law on abortion in Spain. And so we really need to continue this fight to avoid moving backwards, not only in relation to abortion, but also in terms of women's rights and social rights. In Italy, on Monday, the 1st of May, we heard that the government has taken back social rights of a minimum income for citizens. And in closing, I'd like to say to Robert that I agree with your analysis. Committee of Women is women, Committee of Budgets is men. That's not true. In our socialist political group, we have many women in the budget groups. And in the MFF, we managed to have a horizontal, a cross-cutting mention about how European funds can contribute to the equality of people. And that's something we did as women in the Budget Committee.
I'm so proud we have female leaders in the Budget Committee, Aider and Margarita and others, so thank you very much for that. colleagues. That's true.
Thank you, Margarita. Evelyn Röchner and Fred Matic. Evelyn, please.
Thank you so much that you're here. I just have this very short question to you. Are you really aware that you are an idol and strengthening not only Polish women, and therefore also men, but also, I'm from Austria, Austrian women? When we have our meetings, when we have our whatever debates, we are so proud of you being fearless. That means it's not only about fighting against the backlash in Poland, it's about strengthening us in Austria and in all those European countries. So there is no subsidiarity on solidarity. It's strengthening each other. And I just would like to say a small anecdote. Shirin Ebadi, the fantastic Nobel Prize winner, told us when she was in Poland, she said she realized that outside there, where she was there on strengthening Iranian women, Iranian revolution, and she saw that there is strike Kobiet outside, and she was joining. She was said, okay, these are ours. And therefore, I just would like to give you this feedback back. It's simply also strengthening us, and therefore a big thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. Fred Matic, and after Gabi. Fred, please.
Thank you, Rache, and thanks to all of our speakers today, and especially thanks to you, Robert, and your team for leading the process of the Charter of Women's Rights. This is truly much needed, and I'm very happy that we adopted it today in Poland. Being here in Krakow and discussing these topics is more important than ever. We are seeing horrible attack and regression in women's rights. I witnessed this firsthand a few months ago when I chaired the FEM mission in Poland. In this mission, I had many great meetings with NGOs and the Senate members, and a few meetings with Sejm and government, which I would like to forget, and all of you can imagine why. This is why it is crucial we are here on the ground of Poland and showing those opposing women's rights that we will not let this happen. Thank you again to all of you.
Thank you, Fred. Gabi and Brando. Gabi, please.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here with you in Krakow, and I see our Women's Charter in line with Mary Wollstone's draft, The Vindication of Women in 1792. And I think, and I wanted to emphasize how the Polish movement, especially your women's strike, was such an inspiration for women in Europe, and especially your courage, but also your creativity and your alliances, how you could drag this issue not in the big capitals only for demonstrations, but really to the countryside in smaller cities. And this gives us also ideas all over Europe to keep on your strengths, and I hope that it will also play an important role in the next elections, because indeed, as Irache said, our daughters should not have less rights than we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabi. Brando?
Yes, I also want to thank our comrades that are here hosting us in this important moment for us, for the delivery of this commitment and this work towards also the next elections. I was reading now that already in the Italian media they are talking about it. It's an important moment for us, and it's important especially when we have this paradox that in one big country of the European Union, Italy, we have a woman leading the government and doing anti-feminist policies. Margarita was mentioning, for example, the decision that was provocative to have a decree on the 1st of May that was increasing precarious work, reducing rights, especially for women and for young women above all. And my party has been fighting, for example, so that the big opportunity of the recovery plan in Italy, which has a very big amount of resources coming from the Next Generation EU, will lead to opportunities and employment opportunities for women and young women prioritizing projects that can lead to that. Now the government is cancelling this prioritizing in the projects of the Next Generation EU. Just to mention that this regression can come in different directions, also in smaller details, and when you put together the picture, it's a disaster. So it's very important to fight with all the points that we mentioned, and I want to really thank all the activists, which has been an incredible inspiration for movements all over Europe, including in my country. Thank you, and let's keep up with the fight. Thank you very much.
Grazie tante, Brando. Grazie mille. Okay, colleagues, this was the last intervention. We don't have much time, but with all... okay, Maria, you will be the last one. We don't have time, but Maria is such an important and excellent inspiration to all of us. So Maria will have the last word.
Very briefly, we are discussing in Brussels in our group a care strategy and a deal for the future in order to better balance the care duties. And I would like to know from your experience what would be important to introduce in our strategy for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. So, colleagues, we don't have much time left, so I give with all this energy you gave and empowerment to the Polish activists, which is very much needed for us, and thank you very much. I give them the last words for comments. I start with Daria then. Daria, go on.
Okej, bardzo dziękuję za te wszystkie...
Thank you very much. Thanks for all those comments, all those questions. I do not have the feeling of being a heroine, but I will pass on your words, which really do deserve these adjectives. First, I will come back to I'll raise a few points now. Who are the young women today? Well, they're progressive more than men, and they are the ones who've organized the demonstration, sometimes in small towns. Young girls, high school girls, on the verge of graduating from high school, who are demonstrating in their towns. There are only 3 hospitals in Krakow where abortion is available. The conscience clause concerns this area, but in the Carpathians there's no access to abortion. Then there's a problem of contraception, which is a problem in the towns of small little Poland. About 30% of municipalities don't have gynecologist access for young girls. And this has an impact on women's health, and these adolescents really should think of their health. We can't have a situation in which 30% of young girls of a certain region don't have access to a gynecologist.
Mike?
Yes, okay, I take the mic. Okay. I take the mic, but I'm supposed to. So, first of all, I would say it is absolutely historical to be here and to adopt the charter, as we already said. I think it's a message not only for the Polish women, but all the women who are in difficult situations, like in the Czech Republic, like in Hungary, and of course, backlash in Sweden. That's what we all witness. So that's why it's absolutely crucial to win the election here in Poland in October, and in December in Spain, because I'm sure that you know from Irache very well that if what Vox is doing is really an anti-gender. So we really need to stop these forces. And then we really need to prepare points. This is what SND achieved for women rights and LGBTIQ rights. We have to be very much aware, because if we are losing, these people are threatened in Europe. So that's why, with all your strengths, what you do, you really need to fight for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zita, and we keep fingers crossed for Hungary as well. Good luck. Now I give the floor to Katarzyna. 1 minute.
Dziękuję.
1 minute.
Działa, słychać mnie. Dobrze, więc krótko. Chciałabym, żeby Państwo wyjechali...
Very briefly, I would like you to return home having understood one thing, which you need to remember. What happened in Poland concerning women can happen anywhere. And this is what we mustn't forget. Thank you very much for the question that you asked on this. Be very careful, be prudent. Pay attention to the small signals that can serve as alarm bells. And the right to abortion really is a thing on the basis of which you can judge a democracy. If you want to fight democracy, you need to start tackling minority rights and women's rights. Don't fall asleep on your watch, otherwise you'll end up in the same situation as Poland. Thank you, Robert and Aracha, for the charter. That's a very good tool.
Anna.
Dodając to, co powiedziała Katarzyna, bądźmy również
I'd just like to echo what Katarzyna said. You need to be determined in your actions. You need to be consistent. If we cannot obtain what we want, if we can't liberalize abortion, you need to try and try again, a third, a fourth, a fifth time until we win the day. Zita, I promise you, we will win. The Polish left will allow us to get a liberalization of abortion in Poland. And coming back to what you said, sir, earlier on, in 2016 in Poland, there was only 32% of Polish citizens who were in favor of liberalization of the right to abortion. But since 2016, thanks to the activists, the grassroots movement and the demonstrations in towns and villages, we have a situation now in 2023 where 80% of Polish society wants a liberalization of abortion law. And even though we have a government which has conservative people in it who think differently from us, we, the left, in spite of that, we will carry out determined actions to achieve our aims and to ensure that women's rights are respected.
Big applause to Katarzyna, Joanna, Zita, Irache, and Daria, and Hanka, and all of the speakers. Thank you very much, colleagues. And now I want to ask you to approach the stage because we want to have a family photo with all of you. Also the Polish guests. Zapraszamy także polskich gości. Let's have a photo. This will be the good chance for the family photo. All the colleagues, please approach the podium because we are taking the family photo. I także gości zapraszamy, wszystkich.
This one works. Yes, please move forward. We're going to try to make some space for all of you. And we are distributing the charter's first page, so please take that so that we have that on the picture. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, please, I will ask everyone to move forward. Everyone is welcome on the family picture, please. Join the family picture. I will ask everyone to move together. So if you could... Alex, tell me if we're good. So please, everyone look at... Exactly, look here at me, please. And please smile. And taking the picture. So some other people are coming on the picture, please. Yes, the gentleman in the front, please kneel down because you're hiding the ladies behind you. So Robert, we don't see you, so you have to come forward a little bit. Or we're going to bring you a chair to... So please all look at us.
Looking at me, please, looking at me.
It looks great. Please smile, please smile. We're good.
Looking at Bernie.
And then now, please look at Bernardo here. I'm showing him, please look at him. So that we have a nice picture that we're going to tweet and put on the social media. Thank you very much. Please stay there a little bit because I see there are still some colleagues taking pictures, so please stay. Yes, please stay here. Look still at me. There are still pictures taken, so here you look at me. Thank you very much. It looks great. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.